So this beer was so interesting because it was wrapped in paper and it was corked. So I bought it, took it home, and it turned out to be Leaf-Chronicle, and it's sour, probably, my favorite sour brown in the world. And that just turned me, that was my epiphany moment right there. I drank that beer and I thought, gosh, this thing is tart, it's sour, it's caramelly, it's drinkable, it's oaky. What is this? And
Brandon Jones has been a fan of sour beer since he first homebrewed one by accident. That was more than a decade ago, and now he is professionally making sour beers, a type of beer that has been made intentionally acidic through the introduction of bacteria, for Yazoo Brewery in Nashville. Jones is also part of the growing group of American brewers that like to use wild strains of yeast.
Brettanomyces is a strain of yeast. It's not a bacteria, so it can produce these wonderful clean flavors. It can produce flavors of grapefruit and oranges or cherry pie. All these wonderful things that you like to eat, as far as like candy as a kid. Yeah. So wild beers are Brettanomyces forward beers, and probably don't have any lactic acid in them. Bacteria like Pediococcus, Lactobacillus. Sours would have lactic acid bacteria in them.
Wild and sour beers are rarely made in the South, but founder and brewmaster of Yazoo Brewery, Linus has enlisted the help of Jones to start a sour and wild beer program, even letting Jones experiment some on his own.
We had two big tanks that were so large we ended up just cutting a hole in the roof and dropping them in with a crane. And so I was busy worrying about how we're going to get these tanks with like 6 inches of clearance in there, and Brandon came in, he's like, oh, and he came back a couple hours later with this kind of mini cool ship, and he inoculated some beer, just left it sitting out overnight. I was like, what are you doing? He goes, I've always wanted to do this.
Yeah.
Linus and Brandon are excited to educate the South on how great sour beer can be, even holding the South's first Wild and Sour Beer Festival last Sunday in celebration of the funky beer.
Because if you didn't know it was going to be a sour beer and the first thing you hit, like, oh my God, something's wrong with this beer. Like, no, it's supposed to taste like that.
Yeah.
And start thinking about, acidity, and start thinking about, fruity flavors, and then you kind of get the people turned on to it.
You get really excited because these beers are a labor of love. They're manual beers. And so, when you do something, it's kind of like going on a hike or, doing something really hard. You ran that marathon. You want to tell people about that because you worked for that. And you're excited to share that because you are tasting, you are blending, you are picking out the right oak for it. It's not to dispel anything that's done clean and stainless, but to me, sour beers, they're hard beers to make. It's hard to make a good, solid, drinkable sour beer. You can, you can mess it up in a hurry.